Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 10.0.5 is right around the corner. It goes live with the next weekly reset, and despite it being what is usually a small 0.5 patch, there is actually a lot coming our way in 10.0.5. We have some big class changes with some complete talent tree redesigns, there's new types of content to keep you interested and entertained, we will finally see the new catalyst come online to help everyone get their tier sets, and there are so many quality of life changes to make playing the game just better overall. As I said, there's a lot going on, so in this video we're going to go through everything coming in patch 10.0.5 so you know exactly what to expect. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Let's kick things off by talking about the new content coming our way in patch 10.0.5, because while this is a 0.5 patch, it actually gives us quite a bit of brand new content to sink our teeth into, like the new trading post feature. This one is actually huge because it's not just a patch specific or even expansion specific feature. This is true evergreen content that will be relevant, interesting and rewarding for as long as they can keep it running, really. The trading post is actually very simple. Every month you will be able to earn a new currency, the trader's tender, and you'll be able to spend it on cosmetic rewards and options from the trading post. Every month the wares or options will change and rotate, so you get a new set of rewards to look forward to each month. Earning the currency is very simple. Every month the chest at the trading post will contain 500 trader's tender for you to collect, so you get 500 basically just for logging in every month. You can then earn an additional 500 traders tender by completing activities in the new traveler's log. You can earn progress here by doing almost anything. Kill raid bosses, complete dungeon runs, do side quests, take part in the various Dragon Out events, do some PvP. You know, basically if you are actually playing the game in almost any way, you will earn progress in this traveler's log. There are various breakpoints that reward 100 traders tender each, and then the final reward is another special monthly reward. For the first month, it looks like we might get the Ashadar mount, which looks very cool indeed, so if you complete this log for the month, you will get another 500 tender to spend at the trading post, as well as another unique mount. You can spend this new currency in the trading post itself. Every month there will be a variety of goodies to choose from. There are new weapon transmogs, armor transmogs, new cosmetic options, and even new pets and mounts. Some items will cost more than others, and you don't have enough currency to cover everything, so you will need to choose carefully. It's worth noting that the dev team said that these items will rotate back into stock, so you don't have to worry about missing something entirely or for good. It will eventually come back around. In addition to that, you can also freeze one item to carry it over into the next month, just in case you really want something but can't quite afford it with this month's tender. I'm super excited to see what the dev team can come up with to keep this trading post fresh and interesting, but the first round of rewards seem really cool so far. All in all, the trading post just gives you more reasons to log in and play and keep that subscription rolling. You can work towards special cosmetic rewards, save them for the next month if you don't have enough currency, there's a chance to get some previously discontinued items or even items from the store, and you never know what new items or mounts or pets or transmog we might see, and it's just more evergreen content that will stay relevant far into the future. It's always going to be exciting to log in on the first of each month to see what new rewards might be on offer. The other new content addition is another world event, the Storm's Fury. This occurs in the primalist future, where the primalist forces are getting stronger and stronger, so we have to pop in and make sure they don't mess up the timeline too badly. The event itself is pretty easy. There are 4 portals in the area that need to be controlled, so players have to kill any primalist forces around the portal, and then stay in the area to shift the control bar towards player controlled. Even after you've gained control over a portal, you can lose it to primalist forces, so you have to camp that portal and make sure no one comes back to back cap you. When all 4 portals are controlled, the boss is unlocked and you can kill it for some shiny loot. The event seems to last for about 4 hours with a 1-hour downtime, so it should be up quite often. You can see the world quest on the world map over in Thaldraszus, so if you see that world quest up, you can pop on over to get the event done and gather up all those shiny rewards. There is a new currency to earn during this event called Essence of the Storm, which can be used to buy item level 385 neck, ring and trinket options from a new vendor here. The event also provides you with a lot of elemental overflow to help buy elemental storm gear, as well as storm sigils to help you upgrade that gear, so new ways to gear up for the world content players. There are also going to be a lot of new rare monsters added into the primalist future area, so you can kill those for extra chances at loot while the events are going on, or maybe to kill some time in between the events if you missed the last one. Now you may also notice there's a new icon for rares on the map. They combined the old silver dragon with the new 4-pointed star, and I think it looks a lot better than the old marker. This should hopefully help differentiate a rare monster from some kind of event or bonus objective when quickly looking at the map. You're going to have to get used to that new icon pretty quickly because there are also some changes to how rare monsters are going to work in the Dragon Isles. Some rares that showed up on your map outside of elite zones will have their spawning pattern changed to be 1 every 30 minutes instead of 2 every 2 hours. So these rares are going to pop up more often overall, and they have also had their health increased to make sure players have more time to get to them before they die. In addition to this, new rares have also been added to the elite areas of Knockadon Hold, Imbu, the Cobalt Assembly, and Tierhold. Add those to the new rares from the Primalist Future area and we get a whole bunch of new rare monsters to kill in this patch. But the real key here, the big update, is that all of these new rares in the elite areas, including the new Primalist future ones, and the ones that are getting their schedules changed outside of elite areas, they will all have rewards on par with the elite rares found in the Obsidian Citadel or Brackenhide Hollow. If you've done any rare farming this expansion whatsoever, you'll recognize those areas as the ones with super rares, the rare monsters that drop significantly better gear that scales up to at least 389 right now. So not only are we getting more rares to hunt down, but it sounds like all of them are going to be super rares. That will give us way more super rare targets to kill for chances at loot each day, and give players more reasons to check out the elite areas in general. So in patch 10.0.5, any rare that appears on the world map should be worth killing, almost no matter what. Another major addition in patch 10.0.5 is the Revival Catalyst. Yes, the name has changed yet again, so originally it was the Creation Catalyst in Shadowlands, then it was the Inspiration Catalyst for a short time in Dragonflight, but now it's the Revival Catalyst. So if you see someone talking about any of those terms, they're probably talking about the Revival Catalyst at this point. This will finally fire up in patch 10.0.5, giving you access to tier gear without having to run the Vault of the Incarnates raid. We now also know where the catalyst will be for sure. On the northern side of Tierhold, you'll find the opening for this Titan room. You know you're in the right place because there's an NPC here called Antuka. The actual catalyst isn't available on the PTR, so I can't show the actual thing, but this is where it will be when the patch goes live. We also know what kind of gear will be eligible for the Catalyst to turn into tier gear. Any gear that you get from the Great Vault, Mythic Plus Dungeons, Raids, PvP, Tier 2 Elemental Storms, so that's the 385 Epic gear, or Tier 2 World PvP gear, again the 385 Epic gear, that's all going to be usable. So we have a lot of options here for turning non-tier set gear into tier set gear. 2 very accessible options for world content players too, which is nice to see. So pretty much everyone will have access to tier gear when the Catalyst goes live. And then the last bit of info we have regarding the Catalyst is how charges work. We will get 1 charge for completing a new weekly quest. The charge applies to every character on your account. This is an account-wide quest, so you only have to do the quest once, and every character will be able to use that accumulated charge. You can have up to 6 charges saved at any one time, and these charges also apply to any future characters you create and level up, which is great news. That seems to be the only requirement to use the Catalyst, so no new currency, no farming or grinding, just that 1 weekly quest to earn the charge. Apparently the weekly quest will involve completing relevant raid, Mythic Plus, PvP or world content, so hopefully everyone should be able to get it completed pretty easily. And then while it's not exactly new, the Mage Tower will also be returning in patch 10.0.5 as well. This was turned off at the start of Dragonflight, probably to let classes get used to their big changes, and to give the dev team time to make sure the huge overhauls didn't completely break the Mage Tower challenges in any way. It doesn't sound like we will see any extra rewards or goodies or cosmetic options or anything like that, so it's the same Mage Tower challenges with all of the same rewards as Shadowlands, but if this is something that you missed because you didn't play Shadowlands or you skipped over it for whatever reason, it's coming back into the game to maybe offer you some different content to work through. Patch 10.0.5 is also going to include a lot of huge class changes. Now, these are going to be much more impactful when compared to the usual percent damage buffs or nerfs. In patch 10.0.5, we have huge talent changes and shift arounds. There are a lot of new talents being thrown into the mix, and the available paths to work through talent trees have also been changed in some cases. Some bad talents have been removed, some good talents have been removed as well, sadly, but the main point is that things are going to be shaken up quite a lot. Actual patch class changes are usually pretty impactful, so let's go over some of the highlights. Druids are going to see a lot of changes in here. New talents, different talent paths, abilities made baseline, there's a complete redesign for the balance tree as well as the guardian tree, and there are large changes for fellow druids as well. The only spec that didn't see too many changes was Resto, but let's be honest, Resto druids are doing pretty well for themselves right now, so all in all, druids will have a lot of new options in 10.0.5, and some of their specs could play quite differently when compared to right now. Preservation Evokers will also see some big changes, but mainly to how their temporal anomaly spell works and how that interacts with other spells and talents. The only hunter changes are for marksmanship. Their talent tree was shifted around a little bit, Salvo was turned into an active ability, and they're also losing double tap, which is very sad to see. Monks also have a long list of changes. They have a lot of buffs coming their way for certain specs, but then they also have a lot of talent changes and shift arounds too, mainly for the Mistweaver spec. Paladins are going to see some changes to how the Holy spec works, mainly centered around Holy Power and Avenging Crusader, with a few buffs thrown in for good measure. Priests are also getting a long list of changes in here, so I would definitely encourage you to check them out for yourself. Discipline will see many changes to how abilities and talents interact, as well as a few changes to how talents connect and where talents are in the tree. Holy will see a few changes, but nowhere near as many as Disc, mainly focused on talent tree positions and ranks, and then Shadow will get some buffs to Insanity generation and changes to how some talents work. Rogues saw a handful of small changes, nothing too crazy though, and there are some nice buffs in there for each spec, as well as some talent changes. Shaman saw almost no changes, I'm afraid, but at least that Healing Tide Totem change will make it better for non-raid content. I'm so sorry. Warlocks have quite a few changes, including some big changes for how Affliction could work. Demonology had a really weird change for their pet-related cooldowns, and then Destruction will see some extra damage in a variety of places. And then warriors also get quite a few changes. The arms list is very long, including talent changes, new talents, and quite a few buffs. Fury hasn't been left out though. They get what looks like a few buffs with some changes to how abilities and talents interact. If your class or spec wasn't included in this portion of the video, that either means they don't have any updates in 10.0.5 or they don't have any significant updates. I'll give you a link in the description to these class changes so you can go through them at your own leisure. There's a lot to unpack here, so be sure to go read them for yourself if you are super interested. Moving on, there are also some changes to how professions are going to work, specifically related to when you learn your specializations. Previously, you would unlock specializations at 25, 50, 75, and 100 skill for professions with 4 specializations, or 25, 50, and 100 skill for professions with 3 specializations. That meant that you had to get to 100 skill to unlock every specialization available to you, which is not that ideal when you consider that many crafting professions especially will struggle to reach that 100 skill mark without some massive investment. Well, that's changing in this patch. You will now unlock specializations at 25, 50, and 75 for professions with 3 specializations, and then 25, 50, 60, and 75 for professions with 4 specializations. So by the time you get to skill 75, you will be able to unlock all of your available specializations, which is a very nice change indeed. That will give you access to every specialization much earlier than before, which will be great for those crafting professions that struggle to get skill ups beyond the skill level 60 mark. Another nice change for professions is for the gatherers. This might not be entirely applicable to anyone who has already got their gathering to max and is mining or herbing away, but it will be great for anyone who picks up a gathering profession for the first time in patch 10.05. The ability to overload an elemental node has been made baseline, so you no longer have to spec into elemental mastery to learn the overload ability, which is great because you can see what each overload does, gain the shiny benefits from overloading a node, and see if that's gameplay you want to lean lean into with your profession knowledge. The ability to reduce the cooldown of Overload has been shifted into the Elemental Mastery specialization though, so Overload baseline isn't quite as good, but at least you have access to it without having to lock in that specialization choice. Combined with the previous changes, this should make gathering a bit more interesting while leveling your profession skill. And then the last big change related to professions is actually also a big transmog change. Most profession requirements for transmog that had them have been adjusted or removed. Pretty much every requirement that is not engineering has been removed, so that's great, but then anything that does require engineering typically only needs a skill level of 1 for the appropriate expansion, and all requirements for gnomish or goblin engineering have also been removed. So you will have less restrictions overall, which is nice to see. Now, another huge transmog update that a lot of players have been waiting for is the ability to use white and grey quality items as transmog. With this patch, all grey and white items will become bind on equip, so you can equip them and bind them to learn the transmog, and then you just use that as any other option. This really opens up the transmog system to include more basic and minimalist options. We've got the silly stuff, sure, running around with shovels and spades and pitchforks, but there are also some really nice fancy dress options too. Either which way you look at it, this change adds a massive amount of new transmog options for everyone, and it means those grey or white items are no longer useless. There's an extra transmog option there. I'm actually really excited to see what players do with this. People are so creative when it comes to transmog, and there are going to be so many crazy transmogs running around after this patch hits live servers. It's going to be great. Now you may be wondering about all of the starter items that you probably got rid of all those years ago. Those could be fun for some transmog sets too, right? Well, I have some good news for you. In patch 10.05, all of the basic armor vendors in Stormwind and Orgrimmar will have those old starter sets available for sale. So you can run around looking like a level 1 warlock or mage or whatever else you want, and all of the classes and races seem to be covered, so you can pick up all of those old gear looks super duper easily. Some of these actually hold up quite well, and you can use some of the smaller pieces to mix and match for some simpler, yet still good looking transmog sets. So when the patch goes live, be sure to pop by these vendors to kickstart your white and grey transmog collection farming. And then this patch also introduces a bunch of system changes or nice quality of life updates as well. We'll go through the big ones real quick so you know what kind of options got updated. To start with, whenever you go to reset your talents, you will now have the option to reset only the left tree, only the right tree, or reset both at once. That's a very nice quality of life change, so it's great to see that added into the game. You'll now also be able to copy a set of talents from the inspect window. So if you inspect someone to see what talents they are running, and then if you want to give them a go, you can just copy them straight from that window instead of having to take a screenshot or a snippet, manually trying to copy them quickly, or relying on an add-on to provide that functionality for you. So that's also baked into the game as a baseline feature. Another great change for the talent window is that it will now be more obvious what changes you are making when swapping around talents. When you remove a talent, it will now have this extra dashed ring around the outside of it to show you that this is a talent that you had before you started making changes. It's a small change, but it should help you see exactly where you are trading talents or which talents you need to reselect to get back to your old build, which will be really nice. In addition to all of those changes, the edit mode is also getting some new functionality in 10.05. Experience bars, equipment durability, bags, and the micro bar button can now be adjusted in the edit mode. So we can finally move all of those things around and place them exactly where we want without having to use an add-on. In addition to that, we can also use arrow keys to fine-tune or nudge the placement of elements so you can get things exactly where you want them, one tiny nudge at a time. Another small change for the user interface is that the Great Vault now has an updated icon as well as updated art, so both of those things are now Dragonflight specific, just to remind you that Shadowlands is well in the past at this point, and the icon also seems to be larger on the minimap, just to make sure you can't get lost while you're looking for this week's shiny loot. And then the last system or user interface change I want to highlight are the new options to help address any motion sickness problems you might be running into while dragon riding. There are two new options. You can turn on a focal circle to give you a smaller area to focus in on while dragon riding, and then there's also a feature that will darken the landscape while you are moving quickly with dragon riding. If you have problems with dragon riding for any of these reasons, test these new features out when the patch goes live. They might help at least a little bit. And then if you want to change the visual effects while dragon riding, there's an option for that too. You can now disable the wind visual effects that occur when moving at high speed while dragon riding, so whether they give you a headache or you just don't like them, you can now turn them off. And then we also have a handful of changes for PvP, mainly focused into the solo shuffle rated PvP mode. A lot of these changes are to try and address the problem with players leaving before the matches are complete. So, rating will now be calculated on a per round basis in games with leavers. Matchmaking rating will be displayed on the scoreboard for each player. There's a new warning prompt when someone tries to leave, and we also have a note here that players who leave too much could face a count action, including suspension, so they could get banned. So keep that in mind before you leave your rated solo queue matches. And then as an extra little quality of life bonus for all the PvPers out there, in patch 10.05 you'll now be able to toggle on war mode while in Valdrakken, so you don't have to go back to Orgrimmar or Stormwind every single time you want to turn war mode back on. You can just pop back to Valdrakken to make the switch, which will save you at least 2 loading screens whenever you're wanting to go out on the hunt for those shiny bloody tokens and PvP world quest rewards. It's about time the new main expansion hub had this functionality added. Now, there are also some other smaller changes included in this patch, as well as a lot of bug fixes, so this is by no means an exhaustive list, but this is the vast majority of the big ticket items coming with this patch, and the stuff that I think you should know about. I still can't believe we're getting this much content in what is usually a small 0.5 patch, and it's coming so quickly after the expansion launched. That makes me really excited to see how this year plays out as a whole with their 6-patch cycle plan, because if the dev team can keep up with this pace, we're going to have a lot of content to keep us busy as the Dragonflight expansion evolves over time. That's very exciting, and hopefully will keep Dragonflight from following in the footsteps of Shadowlands, but I guess only time will tell. What do you think of patch 10.0.5 from what you've seen so far, and what are you most excited about? The big class changes, the new trading post feature, the revival catalyst, or maybe something else? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below the video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.